Let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. You're scrolling through your phone, or you're lying in bed, or you're working, trying to focus, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a thought shows up. Not a gentle thought, a demanding one. And for the next 5 minutes, or 30 minutes, or an hour, you're completely hijacked. Your focus is gone. Your willpower is a joke. And you tell yourself, just this once, just to get it out of my system, then I'll be productive. Except it's never just once, and it never gets it out of your system. And afterwards, you feel empty, drained, maybe a little disgusted with yourself, and you think, why can't I control this? What's wrong with me? Here's what I want you to understand. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not addicted, at least not in the way you think. You're human. And you're dealing with one of the oldest battles in human history. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, emperor of the greatest empire on earth, dealt with the exact same thing, and he left behind a roadmap, not just for controlling lust, for understanding why it controls you and how to reclaim your power from it. Not through shame, not through suppression, through awareness. Let me show you. But first, quick question, and be honest, even if it's just with yourself. How many times this week has lust hijacked your focus? Not judging, just asking. And here's the real question. Do you want that to change? If the answer is yes, then you're in exactly the right place. Drop a yes in the comments if you're serious about this. Let's see how many of us are actually ready to do the work. All right, let's go deep. Marcus Aurelius was born into power. By age 17, he was being groomed to rule Rome. By 40, he was emperor. Unlimited wealth, unlimited authority, access to anything and anyone he wanted. And every single night, before he went to sleep, he wrote in his journal, not for publication, not for history, for himself. And you know what he wrote about? Controlling his desires. This man, who could have anything, spent his private moments reminding himself not to be controlled by wanting. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And then he wrote something even more brutal. The sexual act is something rubbing against your penis, a moment of friction, an expulsion of mucus. Now, stay with me, because this sounds cold, clinical, almost repulsive, but that's exactly the point. Marcus Aurelius wasn't trying to shame sexuality. He was doing something the Stoics called objective representation, seeing things as they actually are, stripped of the story your mind wraps around them. Because here's what he understood. Lust isn't about the physical act, it's about the fantasy, the anticipation, the story your mind tells itself about what satisfaction will feel like. And that story is always a lie. The actual moment, the friction, the expulsion, is over in seconds, and then you're left with nothing, or worse, guilt, shame, emptiness, wasted time. But the fantasy can hijack your entire day, your entire week, your entire life. And Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, knew he wasn't immune to that, so he trained himself to see through it, not by fighting it, by seeing it clearly. And if you're recognizing this in yourself, if you're realizing that lust has been stealing your focus, your energy, your time, then euphoria is exactly where you need to be. We don't do shame, we don't do judgment, we do clarity. Philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, applied to the real battles you're actually fighting. Hit subscribe because we're just getting started. All right, let's break down what's actually happening when lust takes over. The Stoics understood something about human psychology that modern neuroscience is only now catching up to. Your brain has two systems. System 1, fast, automatic, emotional, driven by dopamine and survival instincts. This is the part that sees an attractive person or an image and immediately floods you with desire. System 2 is slow, rational, deliberate. This is the part that says, I need to focus on work, or this isn't aligned with my values. And here's the problem. System 1 is always faster, always louder, always more convincing. By the time System 2 shows up to the fight, System 1 has already hijacked your attention, flooded your brain with dopamine, and convinced you that satisfaction is just one click away. The Stoics called this passion, and they didn't mean it in a romantic way. They meant it as a disease of the soul, an involuntary emotion that overwhelms reason. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Translation, if your desires control you, you're not free. You're a slave. Not in a moral sense, in a literal, mechanical sense. Your behavior is being dictated by impulses you didn't choose. And Marcus Aurelius knew this. He was surrounded by senators, soldiers, servants, people who indulged every desire without question, and he watched them become hollow, restless, never satisfied. So he made a different choice. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Read that again. The pain, the craving, the obsession, the inability to focus isn't caused by the external trigger. It's caused by your interpretation of it. And that interpretation, you can change it. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What story does your mind tell you about what satisfaction will feel like? Not what it actually feels like afterwards, but what it promises in the moment. Think about that gap between the fantasy and the reality. Drop a comment if you're starting to see it. Just say, "I see it," because recognition is the first step. All right, enough philosophy. Let's talk about what you actually do when the urge shows up. Because it will show up, and pretending it won't is setting yourself up for failure. Marcus Aurelius had a strategy, and it's not what you think. He didn't try to suppress desire. He didn't shame himself for feeling it. He did 3 things. Strategy 1. Name it immediately. The moment the thought appears, Marcus would label it. Not, "I want this," but "a desire has appeared." You see the difference? One makes it about you, about your character, about your willpower. The other makes it about a phenomenon that's happening to you.
The Stoics called this prosoche, attention, vigilant awareness of what's happening in your mind in real time. Modern psychology calls it metacognition, thinking about your thinking. When you catch the thought as it's forming and name it, this is lust, this is a craving, this is System 1 trying to hijack me, you create space. And in that space, you have choice. This is where Marcus Aurelius's brutal honesty comes in. When the fantasy starts, the story about how satisfying it's going to be, you interrupt it. You say, this is a biological impulse. My brain is releasing dopamine because evolution programmed me to seek reproduction. But I am not my biology. I am the awareness observing my biology. You strip away the narrative. You see the urge for what it is, a temporary neurochemical event, not a command, not your identity, just a wave that will pass. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything is only for a day, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." The urge feels permanent, overwhelming, urgent, but it's not. It's temporary, and if you don't feed it, it fades. The Stoics understood something crucial. You can't just not think about something. The harder you try not to think about it, the more it dominates your attention. So instead of fighting the urge, you redirect. The moment you recognize it, you immediately engage in a different activity, not as distraction, as substitution. Marcus Aurelius would turn to philosophy, writing, exercise, duty. You can do the same. The moment the urge appears, stand up, move your body, push-ups, walk, cold shower, call someone, work on something that matters, read something that challenges you. You're not running away, you're choosing a different channel. And the more you do this, the more you rewire your brain. You train System 2 to be faster, stronger, more dominant. This is the kind of work we do at Euphoria. Not surface-level tips, deep psychological and philosophical strategies that actually change how your mind works. If you want more of this, subscribe. Every video is designed to give you power over yourself. Real power, not willpower, awareness power. Now let's keep going. Here's something most people never realize. Lust isn't really about sex or attraction or physical desire. It's about escape. Think about when the urge shows up most strongly. It's usually when you're stressed, you're bored, you're avoiding something, you're lonely, or you're feeling inadequate. Lust becomes the shortcut, the quick hit of dopamine, the temporary relief from whatever you're actually feeling. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He wrote about it constantly. He said, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Replace anger with lust, and the statement holds. The temporary satisfaction of giving in to lust is nothing compared to the consequences: wasted time, guilt, loss of self-respect, broken commitments, weakened willpower. But in the moment, your brain doesn't care. It just wants the hit. So the Stoic approach isn't to fight the urge. It's to ask, what am I avoiding right now? What am I escaping from? Are you avoiding a difficult conversation? Are you bored with your work? Are you lonely and don't know how to connect? Are you feeling powerless in some area of your life? Lust is the symptom, not the disease. And when you address the actual problem, when you face what you're avoiding, when you build a life that's genuinely engaging, when you connect with people authentically, the urge loses its power. Not because you suppressed it, because you outgrew it.
Real talk. What are you usually avoiding when the urge shows up? Don't answer in the comments if you don't want to, but answer for yourself, because this is where the real work begins. When you figure out what you're escaping from, you can finally address it, and that's when everything changes. Marcus Aurelius had a vision for his life. He didn't just want to not be controlled by desire. He wanted to be someone worth not being controlled by desire. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And here's what that means practically. You can't just fight lust on lust's terms. You have to build a life so compelling, so purposeful, so engaging that lust becomes a minor distraction instead of your main event. The Stoics called this living according to nature, not your base impulses, but your highest nature, your rationality, your virtue, your capacity for growth. So here's the real question. What are you building? What are you creating? What are you becoming? Because if your life is empty, if you're just going through the motions, just distracting yourself until you die, then lust will always dominate. It will always be the most interesting thing available to you. But if you have work that matters to you, relationships that fulfill you, goals that challenge you, a vision for who you're becoming, then lust becomes what it actually is, a minor biological impulse that occasionally shows up and is easily managed. Not because you're superhuman, because you're invested in something bigger. And if you're realizing that you need to build that life, that you've been coasting, avoiding, distracting yourself, then Euphoria is here to help. We explore philosophy, psychology, purpose, power, how to become someone you actually respect. Subscribe. This isn't just about controlling lust, it's about controlling your entire life. So here's where we land. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world, and every night he reminded himself not to be controlled by his desires. Not because desire is evil, but because being controlled is slavery. And freedom, real freedom, is being able to choose your response every time. The urge will show up, that's guaranteed. You're human, but you don't have to obey it. You don't have to let it hijack your day, your focus, your self-respect. You can name it. This is lust. This is a craving. See it clearly. Strip away the fantasy. See the biological impulse. Redirect immediately. Choose a different action. Ask what you're avoiding. Address the real problem. Build a life worth living so lust becomes minor, not central. This isn't about perfection. Marcus wasn't perfect. The Stoics weren't perfect. This is about progress, about building the capacity to choose, about becoming someone who is free. And that freedom, it's worth fighting for. Now, I need to hear from you. Answer these 2 questions in the comments. 1. What's the biggest thing lust has cost you? Time, focus, relationships, self-respect? 2. What's one thing you're going to redirect to next time the urge shows up? Don't overthink it. Just answer honestly, because accountability starts with honesty.
And if this video gave you clarity, if it made you see lust differently, if it gave you actual strategies instead of shame, share it. Send it to someone who's fighting the same battle. Because we're not just building a channel, we're building a community of people who refuse to be slaves to their impulses. Subscribe to Euphoria. This is philosophy for people who are done being controlled. I'll see you in the next one.